I will never be a therapist or anything akin to a therapist, but I will nudge you. I will nudge you quite strongly. I might push you, I might nudge you, but I'm not really opening the door for you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mehfooz Musings. My name is Sabah. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the senior therapist and founder of Mehfooz Therapy. And today I'm joined by someone who I've had a lot of riveting conversations with, someone who really knows the balance between funny and serious. And I feel like that's the exact energy we're trying to bring out as the episodes come out at Mehfooz Musings. So please join me in welcoming Jeursa.
Hello, my name is Jeursa. My pronouns are she, her, and I am autistic and ADHD.
I'm kind of glad that you've directly started talking about neurodivergence right from the get go, because I feel like one of our main conversation topics today is going to be just how neurodivergence looks for you and for me, with people from such diverse cultural differences, age groups. The kind of lives we've lived till now, I feel like we still do culminate in a lot of ways in how our neurodivergence shows up or how we react to the stimuli in our environment. And I feel like that would be a really good basis for more people to understand just how nuanced and similar neurodivergent traits can be.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot, and it's something that I have to think about every day in my life and work with. Just, it's part of who I am.
For me, I feel neurodivergence, it kind of felt like I'm boiling milk on a low flame, and it's just like culminating and accumulating, and I know something's happening, and it just, fizzles out when it's done. But I feel like from how much I've understood of your understanding of neurodivergence, it was a very different journey for you. Because for me, while I didn't have a label until a few years ago, I had a lot of understanding of how quirky I am or how I need certain things a certain way and creating accommodations for it before I had the labels to associate it with. But I would really want you to, as much as you can, tell us what your understanding of neurodivergence has been.
So, I didn't think that I was neurodivergent. I just got diagnosed a few months ago. Um, I didn't think that I was neurodivergent. I didn't know what was going on. There were always things that I didn't understand why other people didn't see things like I did, and I didn't understand why I couldn't necessarily do things the way that other people did them, but I never thought that it could be because of that. I thought there were a whole, like a whole list of other reasons why that would be the case. And then my dad and my siblings have been diagnosed with ADHD, but when I was younger, I suspected that I had ADHD because I was struggling in school and I wasn't able to focus. So I went to get screened for it, and they told me that I did not have it um, because I attended too well. So, and I had been told that several times. So in my mind, I thought that, okay, I'm like this because my dad has ADHD, my siblings have ADHD. Therefore, I've picked up these traits from them. And it wasn't until um, I was put in a place in my job. I work at an assisted living with the elderly. And time management is a huge part of that job. And I was really struggling with that I finally um, got diagnosed with ADHD and was able to get some treatment for that.
It's so interesting that when people talk about accommodation for neurodivergence, we often think of, okay, we're going to create accessibility, we're going to create compensations around workspaces or around school spaces. But a lot of it also has to do with that label or that understanding finally giving us more compassion, either for ourselves or even for people who, like in your case, are in your family or people around you who, in herd mentality ways, are just as neurodivergent in different ways as you are. And it just creates that uh, there's more autonomy almost suddenly because now most of it makes sense. Now most of it could be because I did not take care of this part of my neurodivergence, or I took care of it in a way that wasn't actually a coping strategy. It was, something entirely different. I think that's also something I'm very curious to understand from a perspective of a person who has been in spaces where you meet a lot of people who are struggling, whether in your assisted living space or in the past you've also worked at de-addiction centers. So, from that experience and your own understanding of your neurodivergence, do you feel like compassion became difficult or layered for you?
That's a really good question. I struggled when I was younger with compassion because I would see people who were maybe struggling with the same things that I felt like I was struggling with, but they weren't handling it like they weren't masking like I could, and that really stressed me out a lot. And so I struggled with having compassion for them because I struggled having compassion for myself. And then because I was struggling so much in school, I ended up having to go to the alternative school in my area, which was full of other neurodivergent people, lots of people with autism, lots of people with ADHD, people who were struggling more than I did. And that was really my first exposure in learning to let myself be more compassionate to myself and be more compassionate to other people, because I saw how being in an environment where people were supported and able to be themselves and able to say things that maybe were not 100% socially correct, they were happier, and I was also happier. And then that helped me with working in recovery, because a lot of people who are in recovery for drugs and alcohol are self-medicating. Um, and a lot of that is because they're neurodivergent. Like a lot of people who are addicted to stimulants, Adderall, like all of these things, it's because they're medicating for ADHD. And it's something that they really struggled with. And so meeting people where they were, um, because oftentimes people like I worked in detox. So that's when people are very sick coming off of their drugs, and all of the things that they were trying to medicate are coming back tenfold. So they're not able to focus at all and all of these things. And so working with them and reassuring them and being able to interact with them in a real way.
It was also a really young age, right, when you started working at this space.
I started working there when I was 18, and I worked there for 2 years. So it was a very young exposure.
Yeah. But also, did that change how you looked at your own neurodivergence a few months ago when you got diagnosed?
Yes, because at that point, I still didn't know, and I didn't think that I had that. I was able to relate to these people and talk with them, and, um, like, they'd be talking to me and telling me their story, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, I understand," and I'd be able to, like, share some experiences and maybe how I would deal with it for better or for worse, but I didn't make that connection.
Didn't lock to you?
Yeah, I didn't make that connection because I don't know, I had been told my whole life, like, I had already had a psychological screening and nothing came up, so obviously, like, that's not why.
Also, that then brings our conversation to just how many people will trust a misdiagnosis to the point to the point of taking it extremely literally, which in your case would be a sign of neurodivergence too. Where you and I, over the years, have had a lot of conversations about neurodivergence and how I do feel like you should speak to someone. And I've been very subtle about it because for me, my boundaries with friends is I will never be a therapist or anything akin to a therapist, but I will nudge you. I will nudge you quite strongly. I might push you, I might nudge you, but I'm not really opening the door for you. So, and you were always receptive to it, but there was always that line of, but I already spoke to someone and they don't see anything is up.
Yeah. So, that's funny. I started thinking I did a whole bunch of research and took all of the autism quizzes and, like, dived into, like, research papers and stuff like that and compiled a whole bunch of data, and I was like, "I think I'm, like, 80% sure that I'm autistic. I'm like 80% sure that this checks out, which the fact that I went hard into it for several weeks, um, and did all of that research should have been a sign.
You
Um,
don't say.
but I thought that I was autistic. I didn't wanna, like, confirm it because I hadn't been diagnosed, so I was kind of operating on that level when we met and for, like, the year or so that we were talking before I got actually diagnosed, and so I would play around with that idea and I'd be like, "It's my autism, allegedly." And so I if you had been throwing hints that I maybe had ADHD, I did not get them at all. They went straight over my head until one day we were talking, and I don't think that they did this on purpose. I think they accidentally let slip like, "Oh, it's your ADHD," and I was like, "What? What are you talking about? This isn't real. No, 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 no." And then they were like, "Ooh."
I didn't deny it. One thing about me is I'm an honest autistic.
Yeah, like I was like, and then obviously I went and did my own research. I was like, "Oh shit. Whoops." I was like, "Ah, dang it."
You can cuss here, it's okay.
Yeah. And it was really frustrating, and I had to go through a grieving process of accepting, um, that diagnosis because I had told myself for so many years that that wasn't what's it, and I had been told by therapists, I had been told by psychologists that that's not possible, that's not why that's like, you attend too well, you pay attention too well, you aren't super fidgety.
This would be a good time to also then say in what ways do you now realize it's ADHD? For the listeners who've also been told things like this.
I realized all the ways that I had been masking, when I was having conversations where I attended too well. I was using strategies. Like when someone would say something and I had zoned out in the conversation, I could recall like the last 3 or 4 words that they had said when I zoned back in. And so I would repeat that to them. And they would then kind of fill me back in on what was happening so I could continue on. Or when I was like staring off into the distance and not present at all, they would say, "Are you listening to me?" I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, 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 yeah." And then just repeat what they had just told me.
So you basically tricked all of your psychologists and psychiatrists without realizing.
I didn't know that I was doing it. It was like it was a survival skill. That's how I got by with teachers in school.
Because they also have a very classic definition, almost like printed on paper, that, oh, these 10 things, out of these 10, at least 7, and then you're it. But they also don't realize how much difference gender makes, how much difference intellect makes, how much difference people in your own family who might be similarly neurodivergent make. Because a lot of our conversations early on used to be about, oh, but my dad does these things and I don't, or he does it, but I can manage it. But then I had to bring up a lot of the fact that you need to manage it says something. And then we gradually led up to this point. But I want to give a disclaimer that while we are joking about research and all of this, Jerusa did actually go to a psychiatrist and get a diagnosis and is on that journey now.
Yes, I did a whole psychological exam, several appointments, legal paperwork, and all of that kind of thing. It is now official. I don't have to say allegedly anymore.
Wow. I remember you made a whole sticker about it and sent it to our chat.
Yeah, autism announcement.
Considering how much you have understood your family's neurodivergence before your own, there must have been quite a struggle in trying to not see them as the template when you understood your own neurodivergence.
I obviously like there were things that my whole family did, so I assumed that that's normal, and everyone did that. Like everyone can hear the electricity in the walls. Everyone walks outside and like winces aggressively, you know? Things like that. Like, everyone just forgets what they're doing sometimes and leaves things random places, like in the refrigerator. Like, that's.
Yeah, when your whole house does it, of course it feels normal. I feel like a lot of my client conversations gets really fun when they realize that these are not just quirky things people do.
What was really fun was talking to my grandparents, and they, like, will never admit it, but they were like, "Oh yeah, like your uncle, he would not say a word. He didn't speak a word until he was like 4 years old, and then he spoke in full sentences talking about planes and stuff." And it's like a thing in my mom's family where the kids do not like to wear socks. They will not wear socks. I refused to wear socks for several years because I didn't like how they made my feet feel.
But that's just a normal thing, apparently. I mean, it is normal.
And that was normal to my parents too because that's how they grew up. So they also didn't see anything abnormal. It's like a generational thing. I don't know, they managed to function and manage it, and it only takes one person not being able to manage it and be diagnosed to realize, "Oh my gosh, this is like this makes sense." Yeah.
Also, just for another disclaimer, I don't know why I'm doing so many of these. When people in the healthcare field use the word abnormal, we're not saying it in the way media does it. So we're not saying abnormal means wrong or ostracized or any of the other associations people make. So it's kind of like looking at it as neurodivergent, neurotypical, neurodiverse. How there is a spectrum to these things. Even normality or norm. Uh, what's the word? Normativity also has a spectrum.
I would say, like, as in, like, statistics, you know? Like, some abnormal doesn't necessarily mean bad, it just is not on the line.
I agree.
How did your journey go to, like, getting diagnosed? Like, what age did that happen for you? Because you said that, it was like boiling milk, like it was always there. When did it start boiling over?
I think a lot of parts of me that felt, or that were rather neurodivergent, felt like things that I'm going through because I take care of myself so well.
It's true, it's true. They do, mostly.
When I look at the list of things I thought are just me being Sabah, and I need to do these things a certain way so for me to feel regulated, or my anxiety doesn't feel as debilitating since I have been doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, because there are a lot of things I do for it. I realized that this pattern, if I look at it as a template, was very much me not letting myself get overwhelmed because I'm just doing things the way they are meant to be according to my brain. And the more I listened to it, while still keeping compassion for myself and others, it's not like I'm just saying, oh, my way or the highway. I'm saying more in the sense of, I want to do it my way. You can do whatever you want. And the moment I realize that I have bridged that, or I've created that bridge of people, like for example, say punctuality. People can be as late or not punctual as they want to be, or can be rather. Say they have ADHD and time blindness, they just can't show up. I will never hold that against them, but I have a standard that I hold myself against, and that is my autism. Because my autism brain governs in a very, I have certain rules for myself, and as long as nobody is interrupting it or creating any loops or gaps in that flow, I am good. I'm good, and I can govern myself very well. So the moment the world started to get in and it started getting a little muddled is when I was like, why am I getting so bothered? I'm supposed to be this chillax taxi person. What's happening? It was also around the same time I realized that my political understanding of the world and myself is not something that everybody agrees with. And it is baffling to me because my sense of justice, my sense of right and wrong, morality, no gray areas is very strong when it comes to disadvantaged people or people who are in marginalized communities being treated the way they are in the world even today. And the passion, people call it passion, I call it a very basic way of life. The passion that I have to make sure the disadvantaged people don't get pushed aside was starting to be seen as a problem. And I realized that because the world doesn't understand that I see people as inherently good and deserving of certain things, I am supposed to be wrong and I'm supposed to talk to someone about it. And unfortunately, most of the therapists I went to initially didn't, I mean, while they understood my political leanings and they understood why I felt so passionate, they didn't understand why I felt it at the degree I did. or why I just couldn't see why someone would have a bigoted attitude. Where for most neurotypical people, they see that yes, they are bigoted and it's wrong, but they also see why their brain went there. And I can't hold that understanding or openness most of the time. I can only hold it when they are open to change. I can't hold it for people who, just have chosen that way of life. And I think that was my milk boiling out of the pot moment, because it gave me such a zoomed out view of, oh, so it really is true that people really, really believe that some people, just because of where they are born or how they are born or what gender or what class or what caste or whatever else, genuinely see them as less deserving of the same things they get. And I know it's such a base level understanding to have, but for me, I thought everybody was putting up an act. Like, I thought the classmates were putting up an act because their parents wanted them to. But some people really do believe it too. And it just, the the crack in that glass, it just started shattering a lot of other values for me. And I realized that this is something I really need to talk about. I already understood neurodivergence a lot, but I had never really pieced them together. And then this one thing kept biting at me about this sense of justice that neurodivergent people have. And I think it was a slippery slope from there. So then I I looked for a therapist who would understand, and I started talking about it. And I feel like in a lot of ways it's still an ongoing journey for me, because I still like looking at nuances that I didn't realize were neurodivergent, and not just quirky character tropes that I was experiencing. And yeah, I think now I'm here. I'm glad at how much I've understood, but I also wish there was more knowledge being imparted at a younger age for people to understand this. But I guess we are getting there, hopefully.
Definitely, definitely. I can relate to that black and white sense of justice and just not understanding because all of these things are such like it feels so common sense. It feels like it's the only logical conclusion. Like if you lay out all of the facts, this is clearly where they lead, but other people just have different perspectives and they also feel that their position is also the logical conclusion based on what's going on. And realizing that that is but that other people can have different interpretations of something is can be very distressing, and I can see why that may be like a breaking point.
Definitely. So, after quite an enlightening and kind of intense conversations that we've had till now, I think we should change it up a little, talk a little bit about certain questions that I have that seem to be lighter. Hopefully, we'll not make it intense again. I don't want our listeners to get too traumatized. But let's put our little thinking hats on. And my first question to you is, in the movie Shrek, the entire series, let's say, it's what, four movies now? Okay, four movies of Shrek. Who do you think is neurodivergent?
Shrek and Donkey.
And what if I say all of them are neurodivergent?
Oh,
Do you want to guess?
all of them. I mean, I feel like Shrek could be autism. Donkey, ADHD.
Let's go one by one. Why Shrek autism?
I don't know. He just is like in his own.
He's loving his life by himself in his little swamp
Yeah, he's in his own world. Social rules and all of that.
aside. He has a routine he follows every single day.
Ah,
And what hurts him and what irks him to the point of becoming social? Someone coming in and changing his routine.
so true. And he goes to great lengths to fix that.
And there's a point of overstimulation he reaches, after which he's like, okay, fine, you want me to save the princess? Fine, I'll do it. Just do whatever I need to do to get out of this mess. And I feel like both of us have had those logged in moments. And I feel like a lot of neurodivergent people would relate to that. We're just like, okay, you want me to do 20 kg lifting across this state? You know what? Why not? I'm just gonna do this, and then nobody's gonna disturb me for a week.
Exactly.
What about Donkey?
Donkey, he's ADHD. He's just like everywhere, you know? it seems like he's got several different things going on in his head, and he also doesn't really have, like, social rules.
Boundaries.
Boundaries, yeah, at all. Social boundaries, physical like, he's just all about the love.
He also does not get cues at all. He does not get that Shrek doesn't want him around.
No, they're best friends in his mind.
Ooh, my brain just drew a parallel between the donkey, the between Donkey and Olaf from Let It Go. Not from Let It Go. What's the movie called? Frozen. From Frozen. Aren't they both not getting social cues at all? Making their place into a space that they're not actually invited to,
Oh, yeah.
and going to great lengths for people they've just met and thinking they're besties.
Yes. That's so iconic of them.
I think, yeah, the dragon didn't really have any dialogue, so it would feel wrong to diagnose her. What about Fiona?
Fiona. Fiona's kind of on the same level as Shrek. I feel like, they mesh well. Fiona masks a lot. She's the princess. She has to be that. And when her human form is like her mask. But when she's with Shrek, she can completely unmask and show her ogre self. And she also can, she doesn't have to worry about saying the right things or being perfect or being, like, socially correct, you know?
And you know what else? I think with Fiona, this is another thing that a lot of neurodivergent people might relate with, is you have this one sole purpose that you're working towards, and you're just, kind of like a horse that only looks forward, just looking at that one goal target that you are aiming towards. For her, it was going to the I mean, being rescued from the castle by a prince, and that's all she did. She waited there, she did that, and in this another movie, I think it's the second movie, where we see the alternate universe where nobody came to rescue her. We see her leave, and her being in her ogre state, the real state, like you just said, right? The unmasked state. And she is actually being the princess that she was meant to be. She's ruling the ogre people. She's making things happen. She's going on missions. She's brave. She knows what she wants and she takes it unabashedly. That's exactly how people are once they realize that they're neurodivergent and they just need to be.
She can be herself and still be a badass princess. Like, they're not mutually exclusive.
Exactly. That Venn diagram is one.
It's such a freeing thing because if she did exactly what she was supposed to do and married Lord Farquaad and stuff like that, she probably wouldn't have been able to do all the things that she's able to do when she's herself.
Now you give me a movie that you think we should look at the characters of.
We both have watched How to Train Your Dragon, right?
Ooh, yes.
You like How to Train Your Dragon a lot. I know that.
I love that movie. Oh, I love the trilogy so much.
Such a good movie.
It is. So, Hiccup's mom, who we meet in the second movie.
This is one that I actually haven't thought about very much. So I'm interested to know what your takes are.
My brain has a thesis it's preparing, so watch out. So, we're looking at Hiccup's mom, who one day was taken away by a dragon, but it was actually taken to the dragon's lair where she lives a great life. She cares for the animals, she cares for herself, she has a whole life set out. She doesn't get to talk to people, she's okay with that. She gets to live in a space where food, cuddly animals, and taking care of herself, all of it is possible. She never wants to leave. She wants Hiccup to join her instead of coming back, even when she knows that Hiccup is someone who will also understand dragons and help her in her mission. She still would rather be in that little cave. What does that tell us?
Maybe she has a little bit of autism. Yeah, just like a
Yeah, just a little sparkle, yes. But then when we look at Hiccup, he's a lot more ADHD. And then, so first movie, a lot of ADHD. Towards the end, however, and when he becomes himself, when he becomes Hiccup, the son of the what is he
is
called?
it chief? No.
Is it the chiefs? I think it is the chief. If we are wrong, we'll get it edited right here. But we're looking at the chief's son, Hiccup, and not just Hiccup, the boy who creates hiccups in situations, he becomes a lot more AUDHD. So I think because his ADHD was the only thing that was being accepted, and I don't say accepted as in it was accepted with welcoming arms. It was accepted in, oh, he's just this kid who's gonna do this. He's gonna grow out of it, and that's okay. But so that he's, because you see his special interest in creating weaponry or creating the leather seats to sit in the dragons, all of it. He's doing it with the kind of understanding that you would get only after years of being in that practice. But he does it with the kind of sharpness, the kind of wit, the kind of passion that you see with special interests or hyperfixations come up. For him, it was very much related to the connection he had with Toothless, the dragon. So it makes sense that he felt so passionate. But for him to still do it later on too, even when he becomes a chief, he still is involved in all of this. He's still involved in drawing up his little inventions, thinking of how he would measure it, what material he would use. Who told him to do that? Nobody. It was his passion coming in. I think his ADHD always had more room to breathe than his autism did. But once he became more himself, I think he had a little enmeshing point. Quite like Jerusa over here, who was able to accept her ADHD a lot more once her autism was getting front and center attention.
And the funny thing about this is, like, I don't know, all of these characters, like, I never thought anything was like, I related to them in that I thought what they're doing makes complete sense, you know? There's nothing odd about how they're behaving or, like, yeah, I just never thought anything about it.
And that's how it is. I feel like a lot of characters neurodivergent people relate with are actually people who might be telling them more than they realize about themselves.
It's interesting that way. Like, looking back, a lot of my favorite characters that I really latched onto were can be read as neurodivergent or are canonically neurodivergent.
Percy Jackson.
Percy Jackson, my favorite, is my favorite story growing up, and I feel like I related to Percy a lot, but I didn't understand why I necessarily related to him or why I attached so strongly onto their stories or why, like, Annabeth, I really, like, she can be read as being autistic, and I really latched onto her. She was my favorite. You know, I wanted to be part of the Athena cabin and all of that kind of thing. Like, her special interest in architecture and all of that, I really related to. And I don't know, that biggest stack right there, that's all Percy Jackson.
Wow. I remember you have collectible items also, right?
I do. I have special edition books from them too. Percy Jackson is actually, I read a lot as a kid, and Percy Jackson was one of the first stories that made me love reading a lot because I actually struggled to learn to read. It took me a long time to learn to read, and I remember being in kindergarten and not being able to sort the words as fast as other kids. But once I started reading Percy Jackson, I like really I powered through.
I think him being written with a learning disability or difficulty was also really important for a lot of people. If I understand it correctly, it was one of the, on a larger scale, one of the most important representations of learning difficulties.
His ADHD mixed with his dyslexia, those were made to not be, they weren't framed as disabilities. Like, it was shown how it could cause struggles in daily life. Like, he struggled in school a lot and he was really misunderstood. But then as he was brought on this big adventure, it was shown how those could actually be superpowers. And that was really special for a lot of people. That was really cool, and I think part of that is because Rick Riordan wrote it for his son who struggled with those exact same things, and he wrote the book that his kid needed.
And he himself has a lot of neurodivergent traits. Did you know? The writer.
Really.
Yeah. Like one of the things I read, I remember, oh no, it was an interview with him where he said that until his child told him not to, he was going to name the first book very literally called Poseidon's Son.
The Lightning Thief has a bit of a better ring to it. Yeah,
And that was right before production, by the way. Like he was really going to go with.
that's so funny. No wonder I loved his writing so much. He had that ADHD like brain just you could just pick it up subconsciously.
And consciously, according to you.
Well, after the fact. And like with this new show that they're also bringing out, they're it's like letting a whole new generation.
I love that our conversations are going into so many movies that have held a special place for us. And I feel like a lot of people who are listening to us and are neurodivergent might also have movies or shows that they're thinking of on similar lens. As a summary of everything we've discussed today, I feel like there has been a great medley of some intense things, some personal topics, and how these personal things have shown up in media representations. But do you feel like there's something you're taking away or you want to know more about, or anything that you feel like you want to use this podcast for?
I don't know. I feel like I learned more about you and your experience with figuring things out, and just being able to talk about this kind of thing is nice because sometimes in everyday life you don't always get to do that and talk like in such a candid way. So I think that that's nice.
So you think it's great that you have a neurodivergent friend like me?
Obviously, you have helped like a lot because I feel like we're on the same wavelength. We're just and so having someone to relate to and get to talk to and just be yourself with um, is so important. And not having to like wonder if you're saying the right thing, or like having someone like being able to talk literally or like say, hey, ask for clarification and not wonder if you sound weird or things like that. It's really cool.
Jerusa, with the kind of experiences you've had, and I don't know how much of it is because of the neurodivergent family you've had and the kind of degree of reflection you're able to do within yourself unprompted, or if it is the kind of work experiences you've had till now. But I feel like it's always such a joy to talk to someone who won't just say things because they feel like they need to say it, but will say them only once they really believe it or see the the degree of self-reflection needed for it. I feel like there have been a lot of conversations I've been able to have with you that I usually can have only with people who are in the mental health field, as in therapists or psychologists or psychiatrists. And I think that makes me feel like more such conversations need to be had in general, where we do talk to people who in our herd spaces, of spaces where we are with other neurodivergent people, where we need to have conversations about, oh, I feel like all of these thoughts, debilitate me sometimes. What about you? Maybe not quite like that, but on a degree of, I'm be struggling with these things and I don't know what to do about it. What about you? And even if sometimes it's just them going same, that helps.
Exactly. Like just feeling like you're not alone because sometimes being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world can feel so isolating. So finding people who understand you and that you connect with helps make things like easier, brighter a little bit. So that's really really important, and having more neurodivergent friends has definitely helped me like understand that more, and like you can learn other skills from them because maybe they have learned something that works for them and maybe that thing works for you or maybe it doesn't, but just being able to share those kinds of ideas.
Have you been seeing anything in media lately that you feel like you want to talk about as a neurodivergent person?
Things are definitely like touch and go. Like the whole Tylenol causes autism thing was on like it is messed up, but I liked that, it was kind of funny and it brought a lot of neurodivergent people out, like being able to joke about it and make fun of it and just realizing that more people are accepting of it than they used to be. And more people are realizing that they are neurodivergent.
And honestly, neurodivergent people are really funny. I don't think anybody gets just how nuanced, because the way we filter information or the synapses that are getting activated because of certain kind of references or associations, it's unimaginable the lens or the directions your brain will go into to create a joke. It's just so funny.
Well, like people think that um like me personally, I've had people think that like they'll be like, "You're so funny, Jeursa. I don't understand how you're so funny." And I'm just saying things. Like I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying things. But people say that like humor comes from shock almost. Like they're not expecting like when a joke is funny, it's because you're not expecting what the punchline is. And so because our brain works in it like follows different pathways, we come up with things that people just aren't expecting. And that's like that's hilarious. So I will stand by that.
And it's hilarious even to you because you also don't realize just how far your brain went to make this joke happen. And it's a joy, regardless.
Exactly. And like everyone and since everyone's brain is unique, you know, you say things that I'm not expecting and I think you're one of the funniest people I know. Like, whoa, were you not expecting that? Should I not have said that?
You've broken the mystique of Jerusa. I don't think we'll be calling you here again. Maybe our audience decides. Let us know in the comments.
Come on, guys.
Like Jerusa to come back. Maybe we can ask Jerusa some hard hitting questions about America.
Scary.
I don't think I would do that to you. Yet, unless we have 100 comments saying that,
Wow. Come on, guys, let's hit that goal.
we are hopeful.
You have no faith in me.
It has been so fun to have someone as funny as Jerusa with us here. Not unlike the previous guests we've had, which was Aditi in the last episode, another therapist who I had a lot of conversations about people pleasing with in systemic generational cycles. Before that, I was speaking with our precious producer, Afreen, and we had an episode where we talked about a lot of things. I may or may not remember because it's been a while. But this brings us to that point in the conversation where I say that if you have any thoughts that you would like to share with us, whether it's in a voice note, whether it's over an email, you can send it right here at mehfoozmusings@gmail.com. I repeat, mehfoozmusings@gmail.com. It's right here on my face. I hope you don't ignore it. And you can send in a voice note. You can send it in any format you want. If you'd like to stay anonymous, we keep you anonymous. If you'd like to say your name or anything about you, that's also okay. You can ask us questions. You can send messages as feedback. You can let us know what else we should talk about, whatever you want to. This is the best way to reach us. So, on that note, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. This is extra embarrassing when I'm doing it in front of a friend.
I'm totally not going to tease them about this later.
Of course not. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think this was. If you want to do it more personally, you can send us an email. If you have any suggestions for who we should invite or what we should talk about next time, or if you even want Jerusa to come back sometime, let us know in the comments. We'll be really looking forward to knowing what you all think. And I think that's about it. Thank you so much, Jerusa. It was really fun, and I'm so glad you could do it in a time zone that is not convenient for you, but you still made it happen for us. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. I always love having conversations with you. So it was fun. It was just like one of our
Chats.
yeah.
We sometimes crochet together for everybody still listening. So most of our conversations are while we're busy crocheting or knitting together. Thank you so much,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.